Welcome back to Supreme Fuzzler. This is Venture Brothers episode review for episode 8 of season 1, Midlife Chrysalis. Thank you for joining me, everybody. I'm really excited for this episode because it's one of the better episodes in the season. Truly, it's actually one of the best episodes in the series, in my opinion. I guess that's debatable. It's probably like top 25, maybe. I don't know. Season finales are great. Anyways, we are getting into this episode here. I'm going to try my best to try to do more review discussion than just recapping the episodes, which is something I just feel like I'm doing too much in these reviews things. But we'll see how I can do. I was trying to write the whole script on it, but I realized I was just basically rewriting the whole episode in a freaking script-like format, so I kind of shifted what I'm going to do in that regard and just do this, which is going to be kind of just the same. We'll see. Anyways, well, let's get into this. Midlife Chrysalis starts with apparently the Ventures are flying to Marrakesh, and the Air Force is intercepting them, telling him he's flying in secured airspace, and tells them to land, and Brock's like, alright, I'll handle this. And Rusty's like, we gotta get to Marrakesh, we don't got time for this. And they land, and it shows the Air Force people who look really badass. Like, it's really interesting how they, like, depict these really cool looking Air Force soldiers in this. And the Air Force people ask them, what are they doing here? And Rusty's like, we're trying to get to Marrakesh. And then the guy cuts him off. And it's like, I'm not talking to you, Grandpa. I'm talking to the pilot. And Rusty's like, Grandpa. And Brock walks up and is like, don't worry, guys. I got top secret clearance from the government. And shows him his license, which shows license to kill. And we hadn't actually seen Brock's, I don't think, yet. We'd seen Ray Spannon's in the last episode, but this is the first time I think we get Brock's one. And the soldier's like, sir, this expired from 6 months ago. And you can see Brock actually has like a really, he has such a sad face in this moment. He is just so just devastated by this fact. You can tell he's super devastated. Meanwhile, Rusty's like, great, when Marrakesh is overrun by mutant lizard people, don't come crying to me. Oh my gosh, so funny. This show is brilliant. I really enjoy this episode. Is interesting with the whole midlife crisis, obviously, but not just of Rusty's, but also kind of Brock. You get a little bit of a different kind of style of showing of his personality that is totally different than you usually get when it comes to badass Brock. So after the intro, we get into Rusty looking at himself in a mirror and being like, Grandpa, I'm only 43. Of course I look bad with raising 2 boys and my lifestyle. Then he says, but who am I kidding? My looks are flushing down the toilet faster than unwanted pregnancy on prom night. And, well, geez, Rusty. We have the continue, and after that, he's like, I was Rusty Venture, boy adventurer. So great and so amazing. I gotta get back out there and show him what I got. And then goes to Brock and being sad, all sighing and stuff in regards to his no longer having his secret agent license, and Dean and Hank basically consoling him and being like, we're gonna help you get your exam practice in, and you're gonna pass that exam and you're gonna get your license back. And then Rusty rolls up in a new sports car and is like, Brock, we're show ponies, we gotta strut our stuff. And is basically like, Brock, come with me to a boys' night out. And Brock is like, I gotta see this, because it's, God, Rusty is such a cringeworthy kind of character. Because, you know, you want him to kind of win and get that lovin', because every man deserves lovin'. But damn, is he like weirdly an asshole, a weird guy. His clothes are like all 70s style. The car's even kind of 70s style. His look, obviously, like, it's just, dude, you need to know what time of year it is. Even when this came out in 2004, it was fucking, your clothes were too much, just too much, Rusty. And I would say, like, he's just such a loud outfit character in this one. It is such an, it's interesting to think about how Rusty is really rooted, this episode really shows it, he's really rooted in his 70s style. He has, like, this is where he was at his peak, basically, when he was awesome during the 70s, and that's when he was at his best, when his dad was still kind of alive and shit like that. It's particularly probably when he during his Boy Adventurer days, but also probably after in his high school and college days. But I think, like, one of the things I think about this episode is he hasn't done anything great since the 70s, like, nothing. I can't imagine that that's maybe true. Rusty is kind of a failure since his father, and the one thing that he does do great, I know he doesn't fucking show, but that doesn't, I don't know, man, you'd think he'd do something of, like, worth or value since the 70s that he'd be able to utilize that was not, you know, some bullshit from the 70s. We'll see. I'll explain more when we get to it in this episode. As they're leaving, Rusty says that Dean's in charge, and so Dean's all arrogant as they're leaving, but Hank is like, take a bow, and like hits him in the fucking nuts, and there's that nuts shot that I don't know if everyone else did, but like in my high school, everyone would do that where you do it with the back of your hand and kind of just quick shot it, and it would sting and hurt pretty bad, but like not necessarily like get you that stomach ache kind of level of pain. It's just drops him to the floor a little bit. It's kind of brutal. And from there they show up at the bar, Night and Ales, and Rusty, before they walk in, are like, whoa, wait, brings out a toupee and puts it on, and is like, how do I look? Be brutal. And Brock is like, you look like a big doll. Rusty is back. Fucking Rusty is such a weird bastard here. He does not look bad, in my opinion. I think he looks like a pretty decent looking man, especially when he gets the hair on him. But he just looks, especially with the outfit and the way he's trying to strut his stuff, is all 70s feeling. So he just looks so professor old looking. So we go into the bar, and Rusty's like, it doesn't look very busy, and Brock's like, it doesn't get bumped until 11. The bartender is like, Brock walks up and is like, give me a beer, and the bartender's like, you got it, Ape Drape. Fucking, and a beer for Captain Mullet Head. So brutal. Like, I mean, it's obviously just, you know, all in good fun bullshit, because he's a fucking bartender, but Brock is all obviously insulted, and literally is almost drawing his knife and has to bite his lip and make it bleed level of, like, restraint. It's interesting. What I like to point out here is how much restraint Brock shows, and how much of, like, apparently a law-abiding citizen he is. Without his license, he will not even hurt this guy. He is convinced. He is, like, within the confines of the law. If he doesn't have his license to kill, he can't kill. It's not even that. In my opinion, he can't even. He could just, you know, you'd think he could punch this guy, but no, you can't even do that. You have to, like, he has to follow the rules, and he's willing to follow those rules. It's interesting how much Brock is restraining himself in this all apart. Then we look at the main stage, which is a stripper doing her dance. And he's like, oh, well, what do I do? And she's looking at me, and Brock's like, give her like $5 or something. And so Rusty gives him a 20, and fucking is like, can you break this? And like grabs some ones out of her like fucking panties area. She then compliments his medallion, which fucking Rusty goes off about like, oh yeah, this is from a paper from 1979. Turn the whole gravity thing upside down. And that pun was intended. So, my God, this is kind of back to what I was saying. You have no other achievements since 1979. You have nothing else to fucking work on. Also, the whole gravity thing upside down bullshit. shitty ass fucking stupid joke. And it's like, Rusty, do you know you're talking to a stripper? You don't do that shit. And then she leaves, and Rusty's like, oh god, do I follow her? And Brock's like, be right back, and Brock follows her. It's great to see how Brock is just still super ladies, man. Then it shows Hank and Dean, and Hank is like, so I get the grandfather's catcher's mitt, $15, and you'll be my slave for the night. And Dean's like, you got it. And Dean props down a fucking drink that Hank, like, chugs down, and fucking Dean's like, dude, I spit in that. An interesting little, like, this is what Hank and Dean are doing while this is going on, fucking tidbit. It then goes back to Brock, who is, like, making out with the stripper. But then Brock has, like, a crisis and flashbacks to all his killing, all the random-ass kills that he's done. And he fucking just goes back to himself and is like, I can't do this. It's interesting to see how, like, if Brock can't kill, if he cannot sexually perform, it's just in his nature. He has to be able to murder and do his, what he has I guess he's having a crisis of purpose, because his entire purpose and, like, life has been a secret agent and being a mass murdering badass for the last, I guess, few decades. Brock's age is a little uncertain. I'm not sure how old he is. But it's really interesting. Brock, of course, is like, I can't do this, leaves the room, grabs the keys from Rusty. The bartender insults him one more time before he gets to leave. And so Brock, like, just roars his way out. After that, the bartender drops down a drink and is like, compliment for Rusty, and compliments from the lady down at the other end of the bar. And there's a really sexy, good-looking girl waving at Rusty, and it's so cute. But you can hear Monarch talking to her, and it's Dr. Girlfriend, Monarch's girl. And God, Dr. Girlfriend's so hot. I cannot even begin to explain how hot Dr. Girlfriend is, and it's such a great character. And this is not the first time we've seen Dr. Girlfriend, because she's in the first episode as well as the pilot episode, but this is the first time we get to utilize her a lot, and that she's actually a core character beyond just talking to Monarch. And she's just brilliant. Dr. Girlfriend's the best character in this series, almost. That's hard to say because there's a lot of great characters. But for, like, just good, fun, like, non-comedic characters, if I was just grading these characters on how great of characters they were, Dr. Girlfriend would probably be number one. Hank and Dean are pretty great characters, because they're also built upon very well as the series progresses. And Rusty's not bad, and Brock, of course, is not bad. But Hank, Dean, Monarch, 21... and Dr. Girlfriend are probably my favorites. Oh yeah, and Rusty struts over. Like, God, his strut is so... Rusty, you gotta not do shit like that, man. He looks so bad. It's so funny. It then shows Dean cleaning Hank's shoes. And he's like, make it shine, Gunga Din. Yes, Effendi. Which I understand is, like, actually a reference to a poem, if I remember correctly, from, like, Kipling. I can't remember very well, but it's an old poem that they're referencing in this little piece, which, odd reference and very just, like, obscure, and intriguing that Hank knows it, because it makes sense for Dean. Dean knows random bullshit because he's been, like, actually listening to his fucking lessons that are all about random bullshit. But Hank, I wouldn't... Maybe, I guess, early Hank still is being educated on that same level that Dean is. But it's uncertain. But I guess he knows this fucking old-ass poem from, like, the 1890s or whatever. Random. We then go back to Rusty with Dr. Girlfriend. He's flirting with her, giving her a joke, and then that was really stupid. And she gives him a really fake laugh. It's so fucking bad. And then Monarch does this bunch of stuff where he's like, yes, now run your finger around the rim. And he gets all into it and is, like, basically about to, like, masturbate from it. But a guy shows up and he's like, and Monarch's like, what are you doing in here? And he's like, I was getting juice. I was thirsty. It's so kind of interesting of showing like the dad parent mentality that the Monarch and even probably Dr. Girlfriend as the mother character has with their henchmen, who were basically the child who went into the kitchen to get the juice while the parents were like smoking weed or some shit. And it's like, what are you doing out here? We're trying to fucking do adult things. And he's like, but I need to get juice. I'm thirsty. They also have to, Rusty and briefly with Rusty and Dr. Girlfriend, they have to make up a name because they didn't realize that Rusty would ask for it for some reason. You would think that'd be basic when going on an undercover mission. We then go back to Hank and Dean, and Hank's spitting into a fucking cup and is like, drink this. But Dean's like, no, and it's like, you're a slave, you have to. Brock comes in and walks by and is like, go to bed, boys. And then he comes back and is like, why would you dress like that? Because Dean's all like dressed in a weird ass outfit with like a fucking shirt on his head or some crap. It's really confusing what the hell he's wearing right here. And Hank explains that Dean lost a bet and he's his slave, and so he has to drink this item, and he's trying to welch on the bet. And Brock is like, you never welch on a bet, Dean. You be a man, drink it, and then go to bed. And Dean's like, Brock looks like hell. Hank, though, not to be dissuaded or distracted, is like, drink it. Fucking like, no, man, you're gonna drink this because Brock said you must. Don't welch on the bet. We then go back to Dr. Girlfriend and Rusty, sorry. And Monarch listening. And Dr. Girlfriend's like, this is my car, I'm gonna be going now. And Rusty's like, well, maybe I can give you my number to my private two-way communicator. And she's just, how about I give you a ride to your place? It's weird how I don't know, Dr. Girlfriend's voice has made it where I do not mind raspy women's voice anymore as much. Because she is very, very hot, and damn, brah. Like, not even just hot as in, like, aesthetically beautiful. She has that, like, seductiveness and intelligence and just everything that just makes a high-level, super hot woman. All hail Dr. Girlfriend. Just saying. They then go to, because they're riding to his place, they have them making out, and she's getting all, like, rough with him, and then asks, do you have any condoms? Monarch's like, you're not supposed to sleep with him. And Rusty goes and finds one. It disintegrates into dust because apparently he hasn't replaced his condoms in like decades or some shit. And fucking Rusty's like, Rusty doesn't need gadgets to please a woman. God damn it, Rusty. Fucking such a 70s thought process. Condoms are not fucking pleasing toys. They're contraceptives or whatever the fuck. Yeah, no, that's the word I'm looking for. Contraceptives. Like, dude, don't fucking be dumb. And then, of course, Dr. Girlfriend injects him with some serum and then drops him on the floor out cold. Or on the bed, whatever. And leaves. Well, it doesn't leave. That's right. Actually, because then it cuts to the scene where Dean's, and it's the next morning, Dean's helping Brock with setting up to practice for his exam, his written exam. And Rusty comes back downstairs and is like, I gotta go back up with my 2 coffees. Here I go with my 2 coffees. God, he really wants someone to say something. Of course, Rusty goes back upstairs. We has a hickey, you can see, by the way, where the injection was. And as he's leaving, go back upstairs, Brock's like, Monarch's outside. And it shows Dr. Girlfriend, Charlene, is what they call her, by the way. They get what the name they ended up deciding on. They shows her on a, like a helicopter style, on a ladder, flying away with the cocoon. Which I think is like the first time we see the cocoon. I can't recall us seeing it in the first... Or did we see it in the first episode? I think we saw it in the first episode, now that I think about it. Shit. Yeah, I believe it's in Mexico during the first episode. Whatever then. But still. Yeah, early showing of the cocoon. I forgot that the masturbation scene with Monarch and the whole juice thing is actually right here, technically, but whatever. It's still kind of the same thing. Basically, the seduction and their near sex is causing Monarch to want to masturbate. Which again, Dr. Girlfriend's a hot lady, but weird. Okay, and also with Dean and Brock, Dean's like, okay, so there's like a grizzly in front of you, an alligator behind you, and a sniper on the roof. What do you do? And before Dean can continue, Brock's like, somersault behind you, and you kill the alligator, take the jaw, and throw it out and hit the sniper. Sniper falls to the ground, and the bear will go for the easier meal. And Dean's like, it was C. Okay. Also, Rusty was like, I'm all out of condom, which is one of the weirdest lines, but also quite hilarious one-liner from Rusty as he tells Brock, hey, Brock, I'm all out of condom here. So fucking weird. So then we have Dr. Girlfriend talking to Rusty over the phone, and basically Rusty is all obsessive and trying to get us to go on a date. And Monarch is bitching in the back with Dr. Girlfriend, be like, no, I forbid it. Tell him it's going too fast or some shit. And she basically has to accept it to go on a date at 6:30. And fucking Monarch's like, I forbid it. And like, he wouldn't take no for an answer, and I have to go get changed. Alright, and then it has Hank, who shows up and is like, with Dean and Brock. And is like, your ass is mine, Samson. You're gonna eat lightning and crap thunder. It looks like he's gonna eat eggs and crap eggs. So Hank's gonna apparently help Brock with the physical portion. Before that happens, Rusty shows up and is like, I'm gonna go out on my date. And he has that hickey that's now fucking all over his face now. And Brock's a little worried about that. And Rusty goes off about how he's gonna be coming in love and how boys need a new mommy. And he is really an asshole here, in my opinion, where he teases the fact who the boys' mother is, but then he hears a honk at the door and just fucking bails. Which, by the way, could you hear a honk from the kitchen in a compound that's so big as the Venture compound? I'm not sure. I wouldn't say you could, but whatever. And as Brock picks up the egg drink that Hank gave him, he's like, you spit in this? Don't backsass me, Samson, drink it. And so he does. And then we have a little montage of Brock being training physically, doing a bunch of trains, and they have a whole jazzercise joke where they're like, you gotta get cardiovascular training, but Brock's not gonna have it. Dean gets destroyed as like a punching bag for Brock. I don't know why they use Dean and not the stronger Hank, but I guess because Hank's the trainer. So fucking weird. And then they also have the whole scene where Hank's like, you're nothing, Samson. You're worthless. And he has his foot on Brock's shoulder and with mud and shit. And Brock's like, seriously, Hank, after this, I'm allowed to kill you. Oh, I'm sorry, Brock. Then it has the next morning, which has Brock basically with the Dean, Hank, and Helper, and all three of them giving him advice and help. Hank's like, here's a lunchbox. I cut the crust off the sandwich the way I like it. And Dean gave him the communicator watch, which has a bunch of answers on it. And then the Helper gives him a lucky rabbit's foot even, and then gives him a hug. It's really nice. Brock leaves, and you can hear the car drive away. And just as the car drives away, you hear Rusty's scream. You go into Rusty's room, and Rusty's like, those with weak stomachs should leave. And Dean fucking just bails out, because of course Dean's a fucking little pansy and has a weak stomach. What you're about to see is out of the pages of Kafka, something so monstrous. And he reveals that he is a caterpillar, I think? Pretty sure it's a caterpillar. We're going into the whole monarch butterfly shit. And that's an interesting little shit, because fucking Rusty's such an odd character. He takes this, like, not well, but pretty easily. Because then he goes off about, it's one of my favorite lines in this episode, where he's like, this is what I get for being in super science for so long. In less terms, I pissed in God's eye. So funny. It's one of my favorite lines in this series. Because just fucking goddamn. It's like the ultimate thing about science that... Even super science probably obviously a more when it comes to like Rusty's style. But it's really what science is. You're pissing in God's eye. Showing him who's boss. Because this is how we do it on the human realm. Yeah. Helper then finds Rusty's skin, which apparently had like literally shed. Like a snake style. And it appears to be my dermis. And Hank's like all really chill about this. And so fucking Rusty's like, what? Why are you taking this really well? What's up? And Hank's like, dude, we've seen a lot of weird stuff. Last week we were fighting dinosaurs. Like, granted, but I wasn't the dinosaur. This is a little different. Where's Hank? I mean, where's Brock? Where's Dean? And then it has Dr. Girlfriend and Monarch are arguing about whether or not they should do what they're doing to Rusty. Dr. Girlfriend's guilty feeling about doing what she did to Rusty. Essentially, and he essentially explains like you and Monarch and Rusty are very similar. How they are like very similar personalities and how they probably would get along if they actually talked to each other. And how she just feels bad for Rusty after dealing with him. And Monarch is like, no, he's turning you against me, and that's bullshit. And like, can't believe you slept with him. And she's like, I didn't sleep with him. I can't believe you are saying that. And Monarch is like, of course we have something in common. Now we do, right? With you sleeping with him. Fucking Monarch. It's interesting to see how kind of petty and but obsessive Monarch is too. But like, he allowed this situation to be perpetuated by having the, what happened. And he's like, after she says I didn't sleep with him, he's like, prove it. How is he supposed to prove it? Like, I mean, she's supposed to prove it. Like, I've talked to my wife even. It's like, I guess the only option would be to sleep with Monarch is what he's asking. It's very confusing as to what Monarch is wanting in that scene. We have then Rusty with Helper in the lab and basically trying to mix up something to fix Rusty and having Helper do it for him because he doesn't have limbs anymore. And then goes to Brock, who is going to the exam and is like, I'm here to take my secret agent test. And the bro who is doing it for him is like, checks his fucking little like list all smugly and is like, oh yes, Mr. Sampson. And I have to say, everything we know about Brock Sampson, no secret agent in the fucking world of this organization would not know who he is. In my opinion, I would say. The examiner also tells him to take off his wristwatch so that he doesn't have Dean's help. It then has Helper eating a bunch of chemicals. I don't know, I guess because he was told to mix chemicals, so he decided to eat them. And he fucking and it burns a hole in his stomach. And he literally runs around, grows legs, which is the only time I've ever seen Helper grow legs in the 7 seasons of this show. Takes a dump because he just has to get the asses and bases out of him. And it's such an intense and random scene, but it's like, it never has anything like this happen again in the series, at least regards to Helper. We then have Brock with the examiner, and the examiner is giving him a 9mm Glock. And Brock's like, no guns, I don't use guns. And he's like, it's standard issue to have a pistol. And as Brock's saying guns are for wussies, he grabs the course starts, and he grabs the gun, throws it at an enemy, destroying that enemy, runs up, cuts it with his knife, fucking destroys the other enemy by grabbing the fucking mother and destroying it with the cardboard, throws his knife at the electrical box, surprising the examiner, of course, and then roar, and as he fucking destroys the entire, like, exam area, then, of course, he picks up the mother and puts her back safely and soundly. Because he is a good secret agent who saves people, although he used her as a weapon. But whatever, bro, she's fine. Then it has Helper with Rusty with a shotgun, and Rusty being like, just use those opposable thumbs I gave you and pull the trigger. But Helper runs away all crying and sad, and he's like, you little pansy. And then, as Rusty's yelling at Helper, a silk starts pouring out of his mouth, and he looks up at the roof or ceiling and is like, you assume, because he's a fucking caterpillar, he's gonna go make a cocoon. Oh, in fact, they do show him crawling up on the walls up towards the ceiling. So then we have the examiner going over his test with Brock. And basically Brock totaled every car but the one he was driving on the driving test. Refused to use a gun. He drew Icarus on the written exam. And fucking Brock's like, what are you telling me, kid? You don't like Zepp? And the examiner rips the test in half and is like, my father was General Tracever. He spoke of you like a god. And you did not disappoint. And Brock is like, oh yeah, I used to babysit you. I would like to point out a couple things. First, General Tracer, who will be a later character, who's a very important later character, legitimately a major figure in his organization. This motherfucker apparently has trained and helped and probably inspired this kid who was wanting to meet and work with the great Brock Sampson and see him in action, which he apparently did not disappoint, because holy crap, Brock's amazing. It's also interesting to think of what would have happened with Rusty if Brock had been there with his agent license. Because technically, Brock could have gone to Monarch and kicked his ass and gotten the antidote that way, or have realized it's Dr. Girlfriend pretty early and done something about it. I'm not sure. Or if he had stayed at the bar with Rusty, would Dr. Girlfriend have been able to get such a move like that? It's hard to know, and that's one of the things I'm curious about. Then it has Rusty doing his cocoon thing, Hank coming in and being like, does it hurt? And Rusty like, no, actually it seems really easy, as a matter of fact. And then asking Hank if he knows how to use a shotgun, assumably so he can have Hank kill him so he doesn't turn into a monster that can hurt his boys. Because he even does say, I might kill all and one of you. All or one of you, is what he says, rather. And so it's interesting to hear him be basically like, I'm willing to die before this shit. I also would point that out. It shows that this early series Rusty, who was willing to essentially die for his boys no matter what, rather than understanding that he also needs to live for his boys to have a good life, and that Rusty deserves to live also. And how it's hard, Rusty has not really come to, and I might be looking too much into it also, but it just feels that way. And it feels that Rusty in early seasons, Dr. Venture, is very much more depressed of a person. This episode makes sense for him to be so. It's literally his midlife crisis episode. But it's just interesting to think about, like, with his obvious down on himselfness that he is, and the fact that he's a pill popper and things like that are like, and I'm not sure if they are gone later in the series, but they are not as prominent, so it seems that he's gotten over them a bit by the later part of the series. Dean walks in covering his eyes, being like, there's a lady with a deep voice here for you. Rusty's like, oh, Charlene, she can't see me like this, but then she fucking just walks in, and Rusty's like, now you know why I haven't called. She says he is a worm, Rusty, and Rusty's like, oh, I would have called, but you mean this. I'm in the super science biz, these things happen. It's interesting to see how, like, he just brushes it off like that. He doesn't think about how she, like, injected him or whatever the fuck, or suddenly showed up in his life and then this shit started happening. That kind of crap. No, it's because he pissed in God's eye. He just believes that his lifestyle and the way he has always been in his life means that this is a possibility, and that there is no other explanation probably other than I fucked with God too much, which is hilarious. And so Dr. Girlfriend, or Charlene, asks for one last kiss, and they do that, and fucking she injects him, and Rusty's like, oh, this is turning you on, you little slut, and then fucking just passes out. It then shows Brock going back to Nightingales and fucking putting down his license to kill. The bartender's checking it out and is like, double checks it, and then Brock roars and fucking grabs him. When I was younger, I used to think he killed the guy because, you know, he's got a license to kill, but I think he lives because he's in later episodes, the bartender, like in the back and shit. But maybe we'll see in later episodes when he does finally appear. for now, Brock does that. Episode goes to the outro. The last little scene is Rusty coming out of the cocoon, but he's all naked and okay, like he's all fine because assumedly Dr. Girlfriend saved him. And the boys being like, "Oh, Team Venture," and Rusty being like, "What the hell happened?" and whatever. And that's the end of Midlife Chrysalis. This is a long review. I'm sorry these are taking longer than the actual episodes themselves. That's why I'm trying my best not to recap everything. But at the same time, this is kind of how you review. I have to tell you what happened in the episode and then kind of just go with my opinions of the episode. Majority, like, opinion here for me, it's a weird way of saying it, is that this is a great episode. This is one of the best episodes, that's what I was saying. And not even just for the season, although it's a top tier episode, if not... Okay, that's the thing. Even though Orpheus and Captain are great at characters, I would think... Well, and even 21-24, who are not in this episode either. This is almost the best episode in Season 1 so far. It's hard to say. Because Eeny, Meeny, Magic, great episode, of course. Ghost of Sargassum, great episode. Home Insecurity, great episodes. But this is one of the ones that really, like... I remember when I was a kid, or, well, 12, when I was watching this the first time. And I really wasn't into those earlier episodes. They just didn't really appeal to me when I was younger. But this episode was one of the episodes that I did appeal to me. And was a really good way of getting me into the series. I would definitely recommend... If you're thinking about trying the series, Midlife Chrysalis is a great place to start. Because it really is a great place to show Monarch and Rusty's dynamic, Brock's character, and what he's all about. And it even shows a good amount of Hank and Dean's dynamic and what they're about with each other. I really enjoyed Rusty's character development that's in this, as well as the truly first big usage of Dr. Girlfriend, who's a magnificent character. The bits with Monarch, great and funny. I loved Brock's short story too. It's also the first real big showing of the organization that Brock is a part of. I guess that will be the end of this, guys. This is Supreme Fuzzler. Well, thank you for joining me for Fuzzlercast here. We'll be continuing our episode reviews of Venture Brothers coming soon, hopefully. I really do like these next few episodes, so hopefully I won't have much of a problem getting the episodes done as I did with Ice Station Impossible and The Incredible Mr. Brisby. Those two episodes were just hard. I hate to admit it, but it's true. I don't know if I can say I like those episodes, which is not true. I rewatched when I was watching them doing this for this episode, for this review series. They were good episodes. They are good episodes. It's just they're not comparable to this one. Anyways, y'all have a good day. Please like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye. Oh, that's only if you're on YouTube.